Hey everybody, today is Wednesday, March 20th, and we're really happy to share the announcement about Willow's pups arriving. We are just here in our puppy room, and we've got Maple's litter on the other side of this partition. We have a large puppy room, and we have a partition we can put up to divide it in half when we have overlapping litters. And it just works super well to keep all the space climate controlled, and the pups are happy, healthy, and warm, and the mamas are fine together, and everything's great. But you might hear the other pups on the other side. So Maple's up walking around. You might hear her pups talking to us, as well as she perhaps settles in and nurses her pups and moves around and things like that. So you might hear some noise over there. You're going to hear these pups a little bit noisy too. They don't like being handled. So when I pick them up and show them off to you, they're going to protest a little bit, partly because I might be picking one off of the nursing station here, and they're just upset that they didn't get to finish their dinner. And the other reason is they have a strong instinct that when puppies get handled, they protest to alert mama, because they don't know that I'm not a predator, and they have it in their DNA to alert mama and say, hey, something's moving me, this doesn't feel right. And so they might squirm or squawk and whatnot. Don't be alarmed by any of that. And so we're going to just dive right in and show them off to you one by one. So one interesting note about Willow's litter here is most of the pups are very, very close in size and weight right now, with two exceptions. We've got Mr. Blue, he's 0.81 pounds, and a tiny little princess, light pink. She is about half the size of the others. So we expect pups to be about 3/4 of a pound at birth. And so if they're above that, then that's kind of above average. If they're below that, then obviously it might be a little below average. But Miss Light Pink, she is barely, and maybe even not quite, half a pound. Last time we weighed her, she was 0.48 pounds. So we have a little one to present. We always get requests for a little pup. And so it's kind of fun when we get one, because oftentimes all of our pups are just big, beautiful pups. And it's fun to get kind of a little tyke every once in a while for the families that want a little one. So looks like Willow is going to just stretch out and take a little nap here. So I'm going to start with the girls. Miss Purple here at birth, she was 0.97 pounds. And right now, I should say, we weighed them today at 0.97 pounds. These pups were born starting the afternoon of Monday the 18th. And the last one arrived just after midnight on Tuesday. And so the puppy party went all night because we didn't know if there was any more left in there. We stayed up with Willow all night long, but the last one came at 12:30 at night. And so Miss Purple here, she was weighed weighed today at 0.97 pounds, and she's just about 48 hours old. So her markings right now, if we tilt her back, which she does not like, none of them do, unless they're just tuckered out and want to go to sleep. She has just a few polka dot marks on her chest. I think you can see that. And then her groin area is just slightly marked. And so with the Vizsla breed, if you go back and Google the first Vizslas to come to the U.S., you're going to find a family by the name of Tallman and Scanlon. And they were the families that imported some of the first Vizslas. And there's some photographs of those first lines. And you'll notice on some of those first Vizslas, they had big, huge, broad, white chest markings and things like that. So over time, the breeding has trended towards less marked, but breed standards allow for markings on the feet and the chest. And oftentimes we see some of those markings extend beyond that. You'll notice in those early photographs that the markings extended well up into the neck area and the collar area, so we'll see that sometimes coming through some of our lines as well. So that is Miss Purple, and a little bit of tidbit info from the history of the breed and the markings. So next we've got Miss Yellow, and I'm gonna kind of wiggle around myself as I do this. So Miss Yellow, she was 0.92 pounds when we weighed her today, and right now she has just the ever so lightest, oh, there's the squirm. Willow's gonna check in. You might hear Maple try to check in on what's going on over here too. So we've got just the frosted marking on the chest, and she has some really fun, bold back toes. So they're going to be heavily marked back toes, and I suspect that that comes from some of the breed history. In the photographs, I want to think that I see some boldly marked feet in the photographs, but it's kind of tell because they're black and white photos. All I can say is that some of the feet in some of those early photographs look very light to me, considering the shadows and things like that may have been present, but we see those markings come through our lines as well. So that's Miss Yellow at 0.92 pounds. Next, light pink, our little light pink, 0.48 pounds. Her little collar is just, she's just swimming in this little ribbon. It's so big looking on her right now. She's 0.48 pounds. So when she was born, she was small, but she has good vigor, good energy. She seems to be thriving. As you can see, she's got good round tummy. She's getting milk and getting her fair share when she's nursing. So she has a good, strong suckle instinct to her despite her size. But we are giving her preferential treatment. So we have a timer set on our phones where we're coming in here every 3 hours and just giving her preferential positioning to make sure that because of her size that the siblings aren't just pushing her away. Even though she seems to be strong, she may not be strong enough to hold her own against her siblings and the competition for the food when it's time to eat. So that is Miss Light Pink at 0.48 pounds. She does not appear to have any markings on her chest as we look at her right now. She does have some markings down around her groin, and I want to say she has just some frosted back toes on her back feet. So we'll have to see if her puppy coat makes those frosted toes look more defined over time. They kind of go through a phase. Right now they have, I'm going to move around again, my leg's going to sleep. They kind of have what we call a newborn coat right now, and so their coat will change to kind of a puppy coat here in a little bit, and that puppy coat feels like it's less dense than what this newborn coat is, so their markings are much more defined in this early video about their markings. So we'll have to see as their puppy coat comes in how those markings play out. So next is Miss Dark Pink, and she's 0.9 pounds. If we roll her back, she has some marking under her neck, and I'll see if she'll hold still for me enough to show that off. It's a little bit like a pearl necklace or pendant right underneath her chin right there as she protests and says, "Leave me alone." So just very lightly marked under her neck, but then she has a little more bold marking on her chest. She has marking around her groin area, and I'm not seeing any markings on her toes at the moment. So that is Miss Dark Pink at 0.9 pounds, and that finishes up the girls. So next we're on to the boys, Mr. Black, and he is 0.94 pounds. You can probably hear Maple over there slurping some water. These mamas, they drink a lot of water when they are nursing. Just makes them super thirsty. So I'm happy to hear her drinking over there. Mr. Black, he was 0.94 pounds. And if I roll him back, he has a more defined neck marking. A little bit of like a bow tie underneath there by his collar. Hold still, there it is. Did you see that? So he's got a little marking underneath the collar area. And then on his chest, he has kind of that broad marking pattern as well. And he's got a marked groin area, a few light hairs there. And then some lightly frosted back toes on his right foot. And if I look at the left foot, there might be a few there. Their hairs on their back feet are so sparse, and so they're just not it's not a dense fur composition. So sometimes those back feet markings might come in more as their puppy coat comes in. So we'll have to watch Mr. Black's toes for some more marking as he gets his puppy coat. Next is Mr. Blue. He's not a smaller than average pup at 0.81 pounds, but he is the smallest boy out of this litter. And if I roll him back, we can show off how he's got no marking that I see on his neck at the moment, but I do see markings, nice defined marking right on his chest, a little bit right of center and left of center, and so cute little marking there. And then he's got heavily marked back left toes and back right toes. So he's going to have some sneakers that you'll see running like the wind as he takes off as he grows up. Those back white marked feet are fun to watch as they grow up and they're running and taking off and things like that. So next is Mr. Red at 0.94 pounds. And he has kind of a little bit of a neck marking. Another one of those little bow ties underneath his chin. And he's got some markings on his chest across there. And he's got marking around his groin area. And then on his toes, I'm not really seeing anything per se on his toes right now. Right now, this might be a good time to show off a few of their coat differences. I'm going to put yellow and red together because yellow is slightly lighter, black is slightly lighter than some of the others, and red is just one shade darker than the majority. The darkest one is Mr. Green. And so that's why I put red here, show off the difference, and then to emphasize the difference, I'll put green by red. And you can just see green's one of the darkest pups that we see in the color spectrum of things. We do have some pups, every once in a while, they're lighter than Miss Yellow, but Mr. Green's about as dark as they come when it comes to the coat colors for Vizslas. So he'll have that deep kind of copper color as he gets a little bit older. So Mr. Green and Gray, Mr. Gray's coming up. They're tied for biggest of the boys at 0.97 pounds. And Mr. Green here, he has a clear neck area and then just a small hint of a marking on his chest, kind of a light one. His groin area is heavily marked, and then he's got a back left toes that are pretty defined, pretty obviously marked there. So the contrast of his back left toes plus his dark color, that'll be a pretty little highlight on his foot there. So that is Mr. Green. And do you see how these pups will just settle right in when you hold them, true to the world? But the second you try to roll them over or manipulate them like that, They get really uncomfortable. That's actually part of the early neurological stimulation that we do with them, is we hold them in different positions for just about 3 to 5 seconds, not very long, to help them get accustomed to being handled, and also to just have very minor manageable levels of just slight amounts of stress to help build kind of a mental resiliency and emotional resiliency. It strengthens their heart and neurological development and things like that. So that's why they squirm so much when you lay them over on their back, because that's a very unnatural position when we try to show off these markings. But they get very settled in if we just hold them normal. Mr. Gray, like I mentioned, he's 0.97 pounds, same as Green. And if I tip him up, he's got the bow tie under his neck area. He's got a very lightly marked chest. It's hardly visible, but it's going to be apparent with his adult coat. Kind of those 4 dots on his chest. And then he's got the groin marking, and he's got a couple of very lightly marked frosted back toes. So, sorry, Mr. Gray, did that stress you out for a minute? I know. They get more accustomed to being handled, as they get older and we work with them. But for right now, that kind of gets them pretty worked up. So that is Mr. Gray. That's number 9 out of these 9 pups. And they're all doing great. We're happy to present them to you. Oh, I should mention, their dew claws and tails will be done in 2 more days. The vet could get us in on Friday with Maple's litter just across the wall. The vet got us in right away, which was nice to get that done. And you saw how quick those start to heal up. This is kind of what their tails look like prior to being clipped. So that back 2/3 area, you can see how narrow and how thin that is. That back third is going to be removed, and then they just it heals up quickly, and they don't know hardly anything happened 5 minutes after the procedure's done. So next I'll show off the dew claw. There, can you see that little tiny? They're actually pretty small compared to their other claws, if you can see that there. That little dew claw can be quite problematic if it doesn't get removed. As they get older, that will get bigger and more pronounced and just sticks out like a sore thumb and subject to injury later on as they're taken off through brush and rocks and things like that. So rather than have future more substantial injuries at an older age, they just remove that dew claw now, and the pups hardly think anything about it. In a way, I kind of want to, I've never had a thumb removed, but if I could relate to them just from observing their experience, the feeling and their sensation that they exhibit, it's almost like if I were to clip my nail too short, for a little bit, I feel that. And then after that, my body adjusts to having that nail too short, and then I'm fine. And so it's kind of the same thing for these guys with their dew claws being removed, is that gets clipped, and literally 5 minutes after it happens, they don't even respond to any kind of indications that they're suffering or anything like that from that dew claw being removed. So they do really well with their recoveries, and we've never had any problems with infections or anything like that. So anyways, these pups will be basically they're 5 days younger than Maple's, and they are doing great. They're nursing well. Miss Willow is a very good, attentive mom. She is taking care of these pups, watching them like a hawk. If we ever handle them and just check them out, inspect things and whatnot, and when we're in here cleaning, taking care of things, and we have to move the pups around, she wants to know where we're taking them and how long it's going to be before she gets them back. So we don't hardly move her out of their sight. You know, if she needs to go potty or things like that, then we get her taken care of. But other than that, you know, she's just doing really great, super attentive with her pups, and we're just excited to have you follow along and watch them grow. If you have any questions about them, let us know. We will be posting development updates every 7 or 10 days as we go, and we're excited to share them with you. We hope you enjoy watching the videos as they grow. Talk to you later.